let's get back to net zero now. How can we leave that alone and catch up with energy economist Alan Moran again? Good to talk to you, Alan. I wanted to first come to your latest column in The Spectator, focusing on these issues, and you did some pretty simple arithmetic, really, and that is you looked at how much we've spent on renewable energy in this country already to reduce our emissions. So therefore, how many tonnes of emissions we've got rid of from coal and gas and what it's priced out at per tonne, and it's pretty pricey.
It sure is. I mean, the interesting thing about this is that this is the biggest debate we have in the economy, and yet no government minister is giving us any data. It's not easy to add them up. But my own adding up of all the subsidies and the handouts and the fiscal, the regulatory issues and costs amount to about $7 billion a year, every year. And on top of that, there's about another $3 billion a year on average to allow renewables to actually work. And we're talking about that $7 billion is basically all directed towards renewables. There isn't 1 megawatt hour of renewables in the world which would have been developed without a subsidy, and Australia is not distinct from any other country in that respect. So we're spending $10 billion a year. Nobody I know has rejected that number or offered an alternative one. You can start placing that against the amount of carbon emissions that we have saved as a result. And you can come to a number. We have numbers which are published by the Clean Energy Regulator. The answer is that basically we since 2013, say, we've reduced our emissions from electricity by about 36 million tonnes. We've gone from virtually nothing in terms of renewables to about a fifth of the total. So you can work out what the buyout cost of that is, and it's something like $280 per tonne per year. You can then work out what a tax would be. Well, whatever you might want to work it out on the basis of that buyout, and that's a tax then, which is equivalent to $280 a tonne. Or you could say, well, it's on the basis of the aggregate amount of emissions back in 2013, in which case it's somewhat less, about $55 or $60 per tonne. But the important thing about it is when we're talking about these costs of renewable subsidies and what's needed to actually reduce the carbon emissions from coal and gas, essentially, people were talking about what a tax should be. We can go back and think what the Gillard tax was in 2012, and that tax was scheduled to rise by today to about $24 per tonne. So that tax is really about half of what the present tax is. And we think that tax, or at least the alarmists and the subsidy seekers, think that the present tax or the present subsidies are pretty derisory, and the outcome is subpar for Australia, which is probably not true. But the whole notion of Glasgow is to try to pressure the Australian government into adopting much higher taxes, and those taxes impact very severely on the economy.
They sure do, and we're going to double down whoever's in power. I just want to show you briefly what Anthony Albanese said today, because he was speaking to Kieran Gilbert earlier. He said this renewable energy cape is easy.
Renewables are the cheapest form of new energy, so you don't have to distort the market. What you need to do is to embrace the cheapest form of new energy, make sure that it can be connected with the grid.
There you go, Alan. That's easy. It's cheap. Who needs any subsidies or taxes? It'll just take over. Yeah, exactly.
Is he therefore saying we don't need subsidies? This is just crazy. I mean, basically,
madness.
Everybody's in agreement. It's the cheapest. Great. No subsidies.
Let it rip. Thanks for joining us, Alan. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Alan Moran there. It's the easiest. It's the cheapest form of energy. No subsidies, no taxes, no policies. Just let it take over.